Khaled Hosseini was born on March 4th, 1965. He was born in the city of Kabul in Afghanistan, in the Middle East. His father worked for the Afghan Foreign Ministry, where it allowed Khaled and his family to move from place to place, while his mother taught Farsi at a local high school, and she also taught history. From his parents is where Khaled Hosseini attained most of his information from, and most of his knowledge. Khaled moved to Iran, to France, and the United States. He lived in Iran for a while, until he moved to France in 1970. In 1976, his parents decided to move back to Afghanistan, although they could not as Afghanistan was being taken over. This forced him to seek political asylum in the United States. They attained political asylum and moved to California and lived there since. Khaled Hosseini began writing his first book in 1999. He had written a small rough draft that was a few pages long. He had began this as he had heard the news that in Afghanistan, the Taliban that were currently controlling the government had put a ban into kite racing. This affected him and hurt him emotionally as he used to kite race as a child all the time. He felt it was very cruel for the Taliban to put a ban into kite racing and not understand it. And so he began into writing his first novel. He had given his article to a newspaper, but they had rejected it and would not publish it. Later on, in 2001, he felt that he should begin writing his book again, and so he did. And after writing his entire book, he published it in 2003. Khaled Hosseini has stuck to a culture. He visited Afghanistan several times. In one of his visits, he had seen the way how children lived. He saw how families struggled for food, how so many children had no education, no jobs, or didn't even have any parents to support them. With this, he felt the urge to write a book. He called it And the Mountains Echoed. He had published his book in 2013. He had chosen this title because he had read a poem earlier where it had said "and the hills echoed," but he changed it into "and the mountains echoed" as reflecting more into his book because he saw the mountains as not just environment, but he gave it a more deeper meaning because the mountains were surrounding Afghanistan and they saw everything, and so he felt that the book title was perfect for his book and his stories. In Khaled Hosseini's third novel, And the Mountains Echoed, a big theme that plays a role in the book is family. He introduces this right in the beginning. He gives you a small story to think upon and get your mind working on until he introduces the big story. In the big story, he introduces two characters. These two characters are two siblings, a brother and a sister, and they go through a lot to survive in the depths of Afghanistan. They have to struggle for food, struggle for living, along with their father, and they travel from their small city to the big city Kabul, where most of his books take place, as that is where Khaled had grown up as a child and knows the area very well. He also introduces two sisters. These two sisters are twins. Although they are twins, they're very different as one of the sisters feels that the other sister is better looking than her. So they have their own struggles, and although these two different stories might sound very different, they all tie in together. They all tie into the same theme, and they all tie into the book. And it's a great read as it's not just a story, but it's also something to reflect upon because both all these stories in his book all happen in real life, and they have more of a deeper meaning than most stories out there. Khaled Hosseini is an amazing author. He's written three novels: A Thousand Splendid Suns, The Cry and now the Mountains Echoed. All of his books are great reads. They're very realistic and lifelike. They all revolve in the same area where he grew up in Kabul, Afghanistan, and they have a deeper meaning, and they happen in everyday life, not just his books. As there are many people in his country and other countries where people are struggling to survive. These stories give the readers better sense on the world and informs them of things that are happening, not just in the area, but other people's areas, and really teaches the readers the culture of Khaled Hosseini. Khaled Hosseini is an amazing author that has a great way of putting events into words and into his books.